Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
And I'm Sam.
and we are back. Did I break it last week or was that 2 weeks ago?
No, so as of this recording, we released an episode today. That means 2 weeks
Oh,
from
good call.
now, we're back on schedule. We're back on schedule. We
Nice.
missed a week last time, but this time we're on.
Yeah, part of me was like, I'm really, really, really tired from vacation with a 4-year-old. And I was like, no, I just called out. I can't call out again.
You totally. I mean,
I
it's
mean, I like
life.
this.
It's true. This is a leisure activity. This is actually something we do to calm down because we enjoy it.
Exactly.
So, so
I
no, I
was
get that.
I was actually looking forward to it tonight. I was just like, oh, I'm more just always worried about just being like too fried to have a coherent conversation.
I guess this keeps us regular in
Yeah,
our old age.
that is true.
Oh no. Middle age here.
We're here apparently.
Depends on how you count it.
I this weirdly kind of works into our cryptid of the week.
Oh yeah? What do you got?
Well, all right, I'm gonna say it. I skipped another state.
What? What state was it supposed to be?
States by alphabetical order. It was supposed to be Montana. And Montana
And there was
has,
nothing good.
they've got your typical alien story, your typical Nessie story, your typical Bigfoot story. They've got the Puckwudgie, the Wendigo. Everything they have, we've already covered.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, we have nothing there. So I jumped over to Nebraska. Oh
All right.
no, I skipped Nebraska. I did Nevada.
So we skipped over Montana and Nebraska,
I mean,
all the way to Nevada.
I didn't mean to skip Nebraska. It felt wrong, but a quick
You know
Google
what?
search was too
When
much.
we when we get through all of the states, we'll go back to all the ones we skipped and we'll find something interesting to say about them and we can have an episode that's just like the states we skipped.
We can.
Because what are we up to? What is that? Utah, Montana, and Nebraska so far? No, Iowa? I forgot
We
which one.
skipped Iowa, yeah. Iowa, Montana. Well, we can just do Nebraska next week.
Oh, that's true. All right.
But I
From
think it's funny that
Nebraska next week.
I've had both of our skips. I wasn't looking forward to that, but I dug semi deep into Montana looking for something, and it was just a time sink, honestly. But I'm happy with Nevada, which would have been my state anyway since I skipped Nebraska.
Sure, they kind of get you back into the correct spot.
um, so I did the Nevada Giants.
Ooh.
So in 1911, a guano mine opened up because they finally white people figured out that guano is good fertilizer. And when they were excavating these ancient caves, they found what had been dubbed the Lovelock Giants, and they were mummies wrapped like Egyptian style, but they were like 8 to 10 feet tall.
That's too big.
And they found like tons of artifacts and stuff. They have like 15-inch long sandals that actually show like signs of wear, a boulder with a giant handprint etched into it. Um, and there was a few other giant skeletons found around the area in what is a now dry lake bed. So the lake bed has come to the surface, so they're able to dredge through it. And so this has happened a few times, and they've been found over like a 30-year period in the early 1900s. And the ancient Pawti tribe that inhabited that region for millennia actually has a legend of red-haired giants called the Sitaka, and all of the giants that they found had red hair. But
So like Vikings,
I'm thinking maybe
maybe?
Vikings, but um, the amount of stuff that they found in these caves from these peoples, they're estimated to have been there from about 1500 BC to 1500 AD. So a 3,000-year-old civilization.
And were these proven to be real, or are these were like a hoax? Or is it
Fifty-fifty.
50-50? Oh man.
They
I like
have
those odds.
so like a again, a lot of this happened in like 1911 and 1912 when there wasn't like rules and regulations or documentation of most of this stuff. It was just rich white dudes. Um, so the largest reported skeletons have not been found and scientifically studied, probably because they were disappeared away to some rich guy's cabinet of curiosities or something like that. But um, they do have like the 8.5 foot tall. They have like some women that are like 6'8" at least, like, and then like bigger men. They do have like 8.5 footer, I think. So they don't have like the giant ones, but and there is a picture of a bunch of old archaeologists next to one very tall guy, like mummy. So I think at least it is somewhat real. And again, it helps that the Pukwudgie actually have an entire history about not just them living there, but they literally went to war against them. They said they crossed the ocean on large reed rafts, and they were so tall that their legs from knee down were as long as an average man's entire body. I think they might have just been some like big Viking people, but again,
Relatively tall dudes.
yeah, because all the way back to the 16th century Spanish conquistadors, um, were documenting this tale. So it's um, it's been around for a while. I thought it was pretty cool. It kind of ties in. Did I do the Louisiana swamp giants? I did someone's swamp giants down.
They come up a bunch. Were
Yeah,
they one of our campfire stories from last summer?
I think so,
Did
which
they end up the
means
turtle monster?
oh, I think we ended up doing the turtle monster. Yeah. Um, so that might have been Arkansas.
Oh, I'd have to go back through the archives.
I'm just looking at like that Georgia to the Mississippi belt in my head, and in the first half of the alphabet, we got Alabama, Arkansas, and that's it. That's it so far. So, oh, I don't think we would have done it with Louisiana. It could have been Louisiana, but anywho, I like that Giants have come up a few times.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have had a couple.
so yeah, there's a lot of actual writing on the Lombok Cave Giants and all that. It's a fun little deep dive if you just want to fall down a hole.
Sounds like
Um,
a good sounds like a good Wikipedia start and see where it takes you.
yeah, the Museum of Anthropology at the University of California, who originally led the first few digs, published a paper on it in 2005 that said the site has been extensively pot hunted and many materials remain in private collections.
Oh, that's terrible.
So even though it um, has was just destroyed archaeologically, it's still considered one of the most important sites in the history of North American archaeology. It's an official historical site as of 1984. Um, and yeah, no, so like there's at least enough realness in there that it's a national site.
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of the really good finds I think got scooped up by opportunists and sold Dungeons and Dragons style.
It just goes to show you Protect our antiquities. It's
That's the
not too late to do the right thing now.
Forget the satanic panic. Your kids are going to start robbing graves to sell things.
I mean,
It's
if
not for the
the
devil.
stuff is cool enough, it's for the cash.
It's for the cash, guys. All right. So, what are you drinking tonight, Sam?
All right, so I wanted to keep on brand for this week's theme, so I got something that is layers of black and white. I tried the Oreo flavored Coke Zero, limited edition. Someone brought it to my office because they had a six pack of them.
Is there
Uh,
non is there non-Coke Zero?
I don't know if there is a regular. I don't know if there's regular Coke that is flavored like Oreo. The
Oreo
one that I am
Coke.
aware of is Oreo Coke Zero.
Okay, I found Coke Oreos.
Yes, those also exist. I have not tried those, but I feel like you need to try them at the same time. Get the Coke flavored Oreos and the Oreo flavored Cokes to really like have a fun evening. Or hear me out, don't. It was not good. It was it was real bad. Um I don't know what I expected. I don't think I thought it was going to be good. Just because it was like artificial Oreo flavored soda and, zero calorie soda, which I've been trying to drink more of because I drink too much Coke and I thought, oh, well, let me start um cutting it back a little bit with some diet drinks. Uh anyway, can't recommend it. Can't recommend even as a curiosity. It tasted like or artificial cookies and cream flavor. But not even like good artificial cookies and cream flavor. It was it just tasted artificial.
Yeah, it only comes in Coke Zero. That's a big bummer.
Yeah. Don't I think if it was regular Coke, I think it would have been at least a little bit better. Um, but it's like the chocolate flavor sodas died off decades ago because they were a thing at one point,
Absolutely.
and I think it's better that they're not. I just no bueno. Don't have that. I thought about grabbing another one and like, oh, let me make a mixed drink out of this like rum and Oreo flavored Coke Zero. And then I thought better of it because it felt like a waste of rum. Oh. So I'm actually just sitting here drinking a regular Coke because it's also we're recording this at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I'm tired. Need a little caffeine to pick me up.
All
That's
right.
what I'm drinking. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking my drink is one that I found at a restaurant that we went to yesterday that was delicious. Um and it seems like a little bit of country and city fusion, which is
Okay.
a little Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's on brand. That's on brand.
So it is bullet bourbon, blackberry syrup, and lemonade.
That sounds great.
It is too drinkable, Sam. It is dangerously drinkable. Uh, what I
Oh man.
what I will say is, I think you could make a mocktail if you replaced the bourbon with cranberry juice.
Okay.
And that sounds weird, but I had Petra taste it, and I said that, and she was like, that sounds very correct." So I really liked it.
Yeah,
I
it's always a bad thing when you find the drink that is just straight up drinkable.
Yeah, Petra had a second one that was equally drinkable and very dangerous. It's called Lime's Fine. It's Deep Eddy
Hmm.
lime, strawberry puree, pineapple juice, and lime. It's basically a non-frozen strawberry daiquiri.
Mm.
It's just too drinkable.
Now you
Actually,
know we're getting old. You know we're
that's
getting old
we actually
when it's
got
dangerous to
these.
like an alcohol too much.
We found out at our friend Ben's wedding that our mutual friend Ash Um, the bar that I got that at was actually his bar for like a long time after we graduated college.
Hmm.
So, recommended by our friend Ash.
Oh, that's nice.
All right, so we watched Beetlejuice.
Because of course we did. We were always eventually going to get around to doing Beetlejuice.
I will say that visually, I love it still. It holds up.
Gorgeous.
It is
Practical effects
the use of
looking good.
practicals when they're in the other world and they're walking through like that hallway with the doors and like the ceiling's getting lower and the floor is getting it was such good use of like weirdly minimalistic practicals.
It was kind of side roadside attraction kind of optical illusions.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And that's one of the things that I feel like Tim Burton has lost because this was like just the right amount of like kitsch and cool, and so it wasn't like directly in your face. And I feel like a lot of his work now is more like bizarre. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like
Also,
it was more nuanced back then. Whereas I
yes,
feel like some of the nuance in his practical or his effects have been lost over time.
I agree. Um, Turns out I do not like Beetlejuice as much as I did when I was a kid.
Okay, I think
Um,
that's fair. You're older now.
it makes sense, especially since I'm not a Tim Burton fan. It was always just like, but I do like Beetlejuice, and I do like, and now I'm revisiting them, and I'm like, I haven't actually watched Beetlejuice in over 20 years. Um, it's still good. Uh, my son loved it. He was very reluctant that he was going to be too scared at first, but he did that thing where he's like hiding under a sheet when nothing's scary, and then slowly peeks out, and then like eventually doesn't even have the sheet, and is eventually like standing.
Wow, your son did better than my daughter did. She did not make it through the trailer.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, "No, I'm out. I'm not doing this movie." I was like, "Really? I loved this movie when I was your age." And she's like, "Not happening."
Yeah, I had my son see he saw the movie poster, like the cover, and was like, "Oh, too scary," and we were like, "It's not." And we did that parent thing where we're like, "Well, we're gonna watch it. You can just play with your trucks or whatever over there, and you don't have to watch it." And so he like never-ending storied under his blanket with his trucks, and then like the music hit in, and you saw like the head tilt out. So he got sucked in. He thought it was gonna be too scary, but he got sucked in by the magic too quickly.
Well, it's good. I'm glad he liked it. I was like, okay, you don't have to watch it, but it was one of those. I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a bonding moment with us. But she was not. She wasn't about to start watching it.
I'm sorry to hear
Which is
that.
fair. I was like, okay, I respect your decision. It's your decision. I respect it. Um, but yeah, I think visually it definitely holds up. Um, uh, you forget just how much of this movie is like Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's movie. You kind of forget that
There's
in
very little
between viewings.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, in between viewings, you forget what really the whole point of this movie is. I think it's kind of it's such an odd thing. Beetlejuice, I mean, he's the title character. But yeah, I think he's I read something like total he's in this movie for 15 minutes. They talk about him, throughout the movie, but you just don't see him a lot. So I think he's used really well. Yeah, like as of this recording, I haven't seen Beetlejuice yet. I'm gonna try to see it in the next couple of weeks. Um, but it's funny how Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are just from what I understand are not in that movie, or at least are not prominent in that movie. I haven't read any spoilers to see if they pop up in there somewhere. Presumably Alec Baldwin wouldn't. I don't think he's really doing anything anymore. Um,
No, I think
but I
he's in a
wouldn't
movie
even.
right now. I think I just heard that
Is it
he had.
Alec Baldwin?
Yeah,
Is he in a movie right now?
he got cleared of charges, and I'm pretty sure I heard about. Yeah, he has 9 upcoming projects, Sam.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, cool. I guess I don't know how to feel about that. Um, but yeah, in between viewings of this movie, I forget that Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are such big parts of it. I kind of forget about them entirely, and you just think about Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, um, and then to a lesser extent, um, oh, I can't think of her name right now from Home Alone, and she's very famous and very funny.
Catherine
Catherine O'Hara.
O'Hara.
Yeah, she's a minor character. She kind of drives some plot points along, but she's not a big character in this movie. But you kind of always think of her as being such a big part of this movie, and looks like she's a big part of the sequel, because her stock has risen so much since then. And then, of course, and Jeffrey Jones is another person who's in this movie. Who's you're never going to see him in a movie again. He does not get work, and I'm not going to if you don't know why, you feel free to Google it. Um,
Jeffrey
but
Jones. Uh,
rightfully so.
he it actually just was in the Deadwood movie.
How long ago was that? I mean, that was a while ago.
That was 2019. That was 10 years after his conviction.
Ugh. Well, Deadwood movie is one I have not seen. Don't intend to see.
But
He
yeah,
doesn't do a lot.
he doesn't
He,
do
he's
a
one.
lot.
He's one of those people. He was all over '80s movies. He was that Ferris Bueller, a lot of other ones too. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but you watch a lot of movies from the '80s, and he shows up. Even up through Sleepy Hollow, another movie I think we could eventually cover on this show. Um, he's in that, not as much as he's in Beetlejuice.
He was in Mom and Dad Save the World. Remember that one?
That's one, yeah. That's a movie I loved. Another one I think we could do for the show. Um, I watched that movie a lot as a kid.
That movie has Bobby Butnick in it, right?
It was
From
from Salute
Sl-
Your Shorts.
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
have no
Danny
idea.
Cooksey plays their son.
Huh. Wonder what he's up to.
Does a lot of voice acting now.
Oh, good for him. But Mom and Dad, I don't want to talk about Mom and Dad Save the World, but I definitely want to revisit that movie. I haven't watched that in 20 some odd years. I think it would be a fun one.
I don't think much about that movie, but they have this really dumb weapon in it called the pick me up bomb. And it's just it's like a landmine, but it has a note on the top that says pick me up. So when you pick it up, it explodes. And that's just what like the rebels are using against the evil overlord. And just the concept of a pick me up bomb has it's lived rent free in my head since I was like 6.
And it's a clever idea. People are dumb.
I was thinking, I'm like, the brilliance and stupidity mixed together. Anyway, we watched Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Don't say it again, otherwise he'll show up. Um, yeah, I think this movie's a lot of fun. I think in a lot of ways it holds up. If you weren't a Tim Burton fan and you haven't historically been a Tim Burton fan, I'm not surprised that it didn't hold up as well for you as it did for me. This might be the movie that I've watched the most in my life.
I
I don't
it
think it's, I don't think it's my favorite movie.
it is
I don't think I would ever
definitely
go that far.
my favorite Burton movie by a large margin. Because again, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are fantastic. Catherine O'Hara and her husband are fantastic. Their handler, I love their handler.
Otho?
No, 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 no. Their afterlife. Uh,
Oh, the Juno, the caseworker.
yes, their caseworker. Hilarious. I've always loved that character. So I get through it because the soundtrack's great. It's visually great. There's not a bad actor in the film. I mean, like Winona Ryder
No.
was like 15, and she does such a good job.
It's wild how good she is in this movie for being a teenage actress.
Yeah, because I had to relook it up. I was like, she was actually a teenager in this, right? She's not like 22 playing like a teenager, and no, she was just really good at 15. But yeah, Otho is good. They randomly had who played his boss?
Robert
Um
Goulet.
yeah, he was just there. Like, and he does a good job because that man just has screen presence.
It's the mustache,
It is. He's
and
got
I
the
mean, like
Burt
in the
Reynolds
voice,
mustache.
he's so good. He's such a he's such a commanding presence. For the couple of minutes he's on screen, this movie, absolutely.
That's the
It's
thing. If he's on
easily my
this,
favorite Goulet performance.
he if he's on the screen, he has your attention. Um, yeah, no, this is just like this is not a hard movie for me to watch. Like when I say I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, this is my favorite Burton movie. It's still something that if it's on, I will not leave the room. Uh,
Yeah,
like I had to,
especially like it's one of those ultimate Halloween movies, along with Nightmare Before Christmas and Hocus Pocus. I feel like this month it's just going to be available, and you're going to watch, especially because the sequel just came out. I think it's
oh
just
yeah,
going to be watched a lot this year.
and I think this movie might have been one of the main like cornerstones of just my love of practical effects
Hmm.
because I'm a big practicals guy. It's one of the reasons I went to film school. Um, and it's just like the use of practicals in this, just like the way they stretch out their faces to become like ghoulish and stuff to try and do their hauntings. The little things like that, like, have just lived rent free in my mind forever.
Yeah,
Dick.
that was one of the ways we tried to sell it to my daughter because she loves Face Off, which was a show that ran on Sci-Fi Channel a few years ago, which is it's a competition show with visual effects makeup artists, and she just, she's 7 years old. She just binged that show. She loved every minute of it. And we're like, oh, the people from Face Off, one of the judges from Face Off was worked on this movie. This is where she made a name for herself. This is the stuff that she used to do, like you watch on Face Off. And she was like, no, it's too real. It was too real for her. Not seeing it in the context of being a makeup competition. Um, with this, I love the stretch out faces when they're trying to figure out ways to scare the Dietzes. I think I had those action figures.
Even when they are I'm jumping way ahead, but at the very end when they're being exercised and they're like getting very old and brittle, like even those effects are so good. It's just and the gag of having to dig up Beetlejuice in the fake graveyard, so he's like digging through cardboard and stuff.
Yeah, it's a beautiful set.
It
It's
is.
such a gorgeous set. I mean, the attention to detail and the production design in this movie is really second to none.
I honestly think that that's a large part of why millennials are so like sentimental for these style of movies because as we've been talking about with other things, like Mirror Mask was entirely green screened. This is entirely practical. It is just such an attention to detail that you just don't get anymore.
You said this is your favorite Burton movie. You put this above Batman
Oh, I do forget he does Batman.
and Batman Returns.
Okay, outside of the clearly superior Batman, this is my favorite non-franchise adapting Tim Burton movie.
Okay, use your favorite Burton original.
Yes, favorite Burton
That's
original.
reasonable. That's reasonable. I was about to
Yeah,
say, like, I don't know if I could put. I don't know that I could put Beetlejuice above Batman.
yeah, no, absolutely not. Because I don't consider Batman a Burton movie like that. Like, I think Burton's Batman is the best Batman, but I don't wholly consider it a Burton movie because at the end of the day, he's just doing Batman, and we all know Batman.
It's a franchise movie. It's a
Yeah, he got to add his
it
aesthetic to a pre-existing franchise. And
yeah.
I'm
So it kind of you separate it out.
yeah, and I my problem is rarely with his aesthetic. Um like I had a lot of problems with the plot of Beetlejuice as an adult. I kept just being like, "Wait, what?" So, that's where it lost me a little bit. It's his writing. I'm not the biggest fan of.
In
Uh,
what way?
I just I feel like the characters make a lot of bad decisions to further the plot in Burton movies.
Okay.
Like, okay, at the very beginning,
Mhm.
they crash their car off a bridge going like 10 miles an hour. Then the car falls like 8 to 10 feet into a river that's like 4 feet deep. How are they dead?
Well, they might have died on impact. Maybe they couldn't get their seatbelts off. They probably wouldn't have died on impact. You're right. I don't think it's a far enough fall, unless they like, literally just snapped their necks.
And
But if
because
the
like
car got,
even
if they couldn't
later,
get out of their seats, they could have just drowned.
well, their windows were down.
You want to know what bothers me? What has always not always, but has bothered me about this movie since watching it as not even an adult. I think as an older, cynical adult, middle-aged adult.
Is it?
Everyone who's died. What?
Oh, you. I was answering your question. What's your answer?
Oh, everyone who has died in this movie. You know how they died because it's shown in their afterlife form. Why are Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis fine?
I was thinking that
They look normal.
because
They
when
should be perpetually wet.
yeah, because when they first enter their home, they're wet. They look like they've just drowned, and then they just get better. Is that just how they see each other?
Maybe. Because that's one of my favorite things about this movie for every other ghost is the incredible makeup work showing how they died. The rewatching again this the one that stood out to me the most was the burnt corpse who was
Oh
still
yeah,
smoking.
the cigarette guy.
And
Yeah.
and I think it's that like his body is so destroyed, but his voice is normal. That has it's so disconcerting to me. There's just I was like, oh, he's still just the guy that he was. His body is screwed up,
Yeah, well,
but
take
he's
the guy who
still
got flattened.
himself.
He's completely
Oh yeah,
flattened. He shouldn't be able to talk.
he's having a good. I love that actor is funny. I think he died a couple of years ago. Um, I love the flat guy for the moments he's on screen.
It's such a great trip. The thing is, like, this is good because you're constantly moving. Even like time is constantly moving. Like, if they go to the spirit world, 3 months have passed since they left as far as like Earth time is concerned. So it's just like even if the location and the characters aren't moving, the time is. So like the house is different now. There's always forward progress. So you don't really have time to ask a lot of the many questions that I have because you're on to the
Because
next thing. And
you know
that's
they're told at one point in the movie, it's like, oh, you're here for 125 years. Is your haunting? Your haunting is gonna last 125 years before you can move on to, I guess, whatever's next. With the amount of time that they lose, where months will go by in like the blink of an eye, I feel like they're better off just kind of like holding out until that happens.
right. Yeah, I'm not sure. And one of the things that I liked about older Burton is older Burton kind of did a like Jay oh god, whoever did Lost. Um,
J.J. Abrams.
he did it J.J. Abrams, where it was like, it doesn't matter, don't think about it, just keep going, just keep going. Um,
Yeah.
and like early Tim Burton never felt the need to explain anything. He didn't explain a lot in Edward Scissorhands. You got like a weird little silent film fairy tale thing,
Yeah,
and
Edward Scissorhands makes very little sense on the surface of it, but it's all beautiful atmosphere, so you don't really care.
yeah,
I think that
Beetlejuice
holds true here in Beetlejuice.
similar, and I feel like that's one of the things that Burton has lost. And I'm like, it's not just the aesthetic; it's almost like a sense of whimsy, where it's just like you've been basically transported to like a dark land of the Fae, and you just don't think about it because it's all ethereal. But back to the bridge, Sam. I'm not done with that damn bridge.
Oh, right. We're still talking about bad decisions that were made on the bridge.
Later in the film, when Lydia is writing her suicide note, she's just like, by the time you read this, I will have plummeted to my death from the bridge. And I'm like, the bridge is 8 feet over water.
She's a very dramatic teenager. I mean, she needs help, I think. She's feeling suicidal, but I think she's being dramatic in that
Well,
moment.
she changes it 'cause she's like, I will have leapt, no, plummeted to my death. And I'm like, plummeting indicates that that is the cause of your death, not like you. Otherwise, you're just Ophelia-ing it after like a little hop, skip, and jump. So, there's just a lot of little things like that that bother me. There's a lot of little like, why would you do that to me? And not everything's coming to me right now because I didn't want to take notes on this one, but it was a constant feeling throughout the movie. If Petra was here, she could probably tell you because I just ranted the whole time. But um and again, I just like it was me just realizing how much this movie doesn't have a like it has a plot, but it's so long for such a short slow burn plot. It feels like they could have answered a few questions or I don't know. I don't know what my problem is.
You think that there were more answers to be had that were not given on screen.
Yeah, and like many people didn't even try for them. They were just like, "All right, that's a question for the ages." And I was like, "But does it have to be?"
I think one of the problems or one of the things about it is the nature of death is not really well known. Like he keeps saying like, oh, whenever they're reading the guide to the afterlife, he keeps saying it reads like stereo instructions. They're given information about like, oh, in this situation, this is what you do for this outcome. But he doesn't know how it works. And that's what he means. Like it reads like stereo instructions. Like if you give it a stereo, it'll tell you how to set it up, but I don't know how the tubes and the things on the inside work, and I don't need to know that. If I run into trouble, I bring it back for repair. The
All
same
right.
way, if they run into trouble, they can't navigate something. It's like, oh, you need to call the helpline, or in this case, create the door and go through, and someone will be there to help you.
All right.
It's like Afterlife is like a bureaucracy, basically, and I think they make a point at one point in the movie. If you kill yourself in the afterlife, you end up as a civil servant, which is what we end up seeing when we meet the woman who's running the front desk, who makes mention of her little accident. You see that she slit her wrists, and
Yeah.
that's how it is. It's just like it's basically a big faceless government organization. No, it's the same thing when I work for what is effectively a government office. I don't tell people like why we do things or how we do things. I just tell them it's like these are the steps that you need to take. Why do you need to take these steps? It's like because the regulations were written by somebody else and it's my job to enforce the regulations. These are the steps you're supposed to take. Get off of the phone, stop talking to me. I've been a little bit snippy with people lately.
I mean, that's fair. People have
It's
gotten awful.
gotten under my skin. So I think that's what it is, and I think that's a little bit of a hand wavy thing. Like we don't need to explain it. Kind of like time travel in Back to the Future. The time travel rules in Back to the Future make no sense, and they'll never make sense. Like try and sit down and like listen to what Doc Brown says, and then actually try and diagram out or chart out what you see happen on screen. It doesn't work. But as long as it's entertaining enough, you're not really paying attention to it. And I think like that's why you notice these things more this watch through. Like you were saying, you're older now. The movie is less enthralling than it was when you were younger, and you're going to notice these things that really make no sense. Which I agree. There's a lot of the movie that doesn't make sense, but I watched it this Halloween, I watched it last Halloween, and I will keep watching it, especially once I can convince my child to watch it. I want her to watch it.
The whole having to wear the same outfit you died in for the rest of eternity thing is pretty rough, because
Totally rough.
that was not good.
But that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense for a ghost because when you see a ghost, that's
Oh,
what they're wearing. They're always wearing what they're always wearing some old timey outfit.
I
So I think they're
know.
stuck with that.
It was
That makes
just
sense.
such hideous, like, 80s country apparel.
Gina Davis's hair, I think, is the most immediately dated. I feel like Alec Baldwin's outfit. If you
You
saw somebody wearing that now, I don't know that you'd really notice.
No, you just think he was a hipster.
Yeah. And I think Gina Davis's outfit, I think it might be a little bit out of fashion now, but I think a couple of years ago you could have gotten away with it again. And a couple of years from now you'd probably be able to get away with it again, but
But
probably not as
should
hair.
you?
No. Leave it in the past.
Leave it in the
I was
past.
watching right before this I was watching an old Price is Right episode because there's a channel on Pluto that is old, just Price is Right. And I was trying to place what year it was from, and I think I figured out that it was like 2005 based on the clothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this clothing is so dated. It doesn't feel like 2005 was that long ago, but it was. So 1980s, even more so. This movie came out when we were babies.
Yeah, we were 3 when this came out. That's the thing. Like, when I showed it to my son, I was like, by the time I saw this, it was on VHS, so I would have probably been 4. But yeah, I was like, you're the same age I was. I'm wondering how you're going to handle this. And the answer was very well. But it was worrisome.
But he made it through.
Anything else you want to cover about this
No, I mean,
specifically?
like, I think it holds up. I love the practicals. Um, if you're anything like me, you grew up with this movie. Um, and I'm gonna make time to go see part two. I'm surprised to hear that that movie it's apparently pretty good from all the reviews, which I find rather shocking. Because I never count on these like legacy sequels to actually be any good. So exciting to hear that it's an okay movie.
Yeah, I've kind of purposely avoided everything about it because if it's really good, I don't want to go in with overly high expectations, and I don't want to get any bias from it. I don't have a lot of immediate need to watch it, but I know I will, so I'm trying to kind of just know as little about it as possible.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, Tim Burton didn't like the Deo sequence and didn't think it was going to go over well because it wasn't funny. And I'm like, it's like one of the most iconic scenes from Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be funny. It's I mean it is. I think it's very funny. But I love that moment when they realize like, oh, we're being possessed. I don't think I would have reacted to it as well as the characters in the movie did, where they're like, "This was great, we loved it." It's like, no, these were ghosts who were making you do things against your will. You should hate this. I think that was one of the moments that I was like, I don't really think people would react this way.
It's weird. So, Michael, one of the reasons I feel like we think Michael Keaton is in more of this movie besides playing Beetlejuice, it being called Beetlejuice, being the main part of the cover, despite only being in 14 and a half minutes of the film, is like I know at least recently it went around again. Michael Keaton, the favorite, it's his favorite movie of his, and it's just like so. This is notoriously Michael Keaton's favorite film that he's been in. It's like, dude, you were barely in it.
Maybe that's why he liked it so much. It wasn't a lot of work
Maybe.
for him. Although he would have had to sit and get that makeup every day.
Yeah, but he got to come up with his own makeup.
He came up with that design?
He came up with the whole character of Beetlejuice. Um,
Amazing.
he was basically Tim Burton was like the guy has lived in every century and no century. And so he was like, all right, I want mold on my face. Like over here, I want my hair to look like I stuck my finger in an electric socket. Give me big buck teeth. Give me a striped suit. Yeah, so he did all of that. Was like his artistic decision. Um, because he's lived in every time period and no time period, and that's what Michael Keaton took from that. He told the mold department specifically he wanted mold on his face and his hair look straight up like that. And yeah, he tried on clothes from all different time periods and stuff until he settled on the suit. He 100% that was a creature of his own making when it came to the makeup chair.
It's pretty incredible.
I think that's probably honestly one of the reasons it's one of his favorites because how often do you get that kind of artistic freedom? He also ad-libbed most of his lines. So
That's amazing.
yeah, he just was riffing like cuz I was thinking when I was watching it I was like, if they had made this like 10 years earlier, this might have been like Bill Murray and like cuz he was just like going with the flow, riffing like, "Hey, this outfit'll look good today." Like it was like artistic dream.
Can you imagine? Let's say it was a different other actors known for just like doing their own thing. Imagine if this was voice crack, oh, manly voice. Imagine if it was like Robin Williams.
Yeah, I was thinking that as I
Yeah.
said Bill Murray. I'm like Robin Williams also is the king of improv. He could have done this.
You wonder what he would have done with a character like that. Something similar to Mrs. Doubtfire.
I mean, honestly, isn't that like a little bit what they did with the cartoon? Just suddenly Lydia and Beetlejuice are BFFs.
Yeah, that was one of those. It's one of those car- movie. The cartoon of this movie takes so many liberties. We get rid of Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters outright. They do not exist in the cartoon.
Such a weird decision.
We com- I mean, we completely reimagine a relationship between Lydia and Beetlejuice to the point that that is so much of what I think of those characters comes from the cartoon. That when you see them together on screen in the sequel, and you can tell that they are like cooperating, like, oh, because of the cartoon. Did they become friends? Will the third Beetlejuice movie just be Lydia and Beetlejuice like actually being friends and hanging out? It feels like it could go in that direction.
It feels like there's
Again, I
gonna
haven't seen the.
be a third movie, right? Because there was Beetlejuice, then Beetlejuice. Logically, there has to be a third one.
Yeah, I think that that's what they were setting themselves up for. I wonder how long it'll be. I think they have to give it a little time, but they're not going to give it another 30 some odd years. But I think it sounds like this movie is doing well enough now that it'll probably warrant getting a sequel, getting greenlit. Yeah, because it's already made over $267 million as of this recording. Yeah, so I think they have to be setting up for a part three.
Yeah. I mean, now's the time to do it. Like, Winona Ryder is still writing her Stranger Things peak. Jenna Ortega is really big. Michael Keaton's been knocking it out of the park recently. I don't know how they're going to keep getting Catherine O'Hara back. She retired years ago.
Well, I feel like this is one of those things where it's so part of her history. But at the same time, if Catherine O'Hara wants to just take it easy and not, leave her alone. She's done enough. We she owes us nothing at this point. I love her so much. She's so
Yeah,
good.
I
You ever
really.
seen like
Hmm?
her and Macaulay Culkin? Like her
Oh,
and Macaulay Culkin recently, I think they were together for a Hollywood Star Walk
yeah,
of Fame or something, and
he
they were
got
like so
his
happy to
Hollywood
see each other.
star, and she came to dedicate it to him.
That's so nice.
Yeah, they occasionally will run into each other in the wild, and he'll yell like "mom" across the restaurant, and she'll yell back like "son" and like run towards him. So they've stayed in touch, which is also really sweet.
That's nice.
All right, Sam,
Yeah.
where can they find us?
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at RTSpiritsPod. So let us know what you thought of Beetlejuice. Let us know if we should go see Beetlejuice. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, thank you for joining us. I am Steve,
And I'm Sam.
and we will see you next time.
Good night.